Greetings, MsStoryMystery here with another collection of creepy encounters from real people just like you and me. If you like these stories, hit the like button and subscribe if you aren't already. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the unknown. I wanted to share a truly bizarre and honestly terrifying experience I had growing up, one I've never been able to forget. For some context, my childhood home was a full-on hotbed of paranormal activity. I could probably write a whole book with the things we experienced there. But this one stands out from all the rest. We lived on a small, secluded stretch of highway, surrounded by dense woods. Our house sat on a few acres of land, but the area around us was federally protected wildlife refuge, which meant no neighbors, no new builds, and no visitors unless they were invited. The land was untouched, wild, and the house itself, a 300-year-old colonial, steeped in history, Native American land, battlegrounds from both the Revolutionary and Civil Wars. It felt heavy, like the air carried centuries of grief and pain. There was always a presence out there. You never really felt alone, not inside the house, and definitely not outside. Friends and visitors would often say the same thing, that they felt uncomfortable, watched. Some couldn't even stay the night. So, yeah, it wasn't exactly a carefree childhood. Now, this particular night, I was around 11 years old. My younger brothers were 10 and 7. After dinner, it was routine for my dad to ask one of us to go out back and feed the dog. Here's the thing though, our dog was tied up near the tree line, and that part of the property had always felt wrong. It didn't matter if it was day or night, it was just off, creepy. You never went there alone. So, no matter who got the chore, we always went as a trio. The unlucky one with the food bowl would be sandwiched in the middle, while the other two kept watch on either side. It was a whole operation. We moved slow, eyes scanning the woods in every direction, trying to make each other laugh to ease the tension. And then, once we reached the dog, we had this little ritual. The two who weren't carrying the bowl would yell something terrifying, Jeepers Creepers or the Jersey Devil, and take off running, leaving the poor kid with the bowl to panic alone for a few seconds before bolting back to the house. It was dumb, but it was tradition. But on this night, none of us were joking. The air felt wrong as soon as we stepped outside. Thick, charged, like the moment right before a lightning strike, static buzzing across your skin. And our dog? He was already barking like crazy. Not his usual bark either. He was in full on panic mode. As we got closer, we saw him standing on his hind legs, straining so hard against his leash that it looked like he might choke himself. He was staring into the woods, barking with everything he had. Then we heard it. Branches snapping. Loud, sharp. We turned toward the tree line, and that's when we saw it. A towering, black stick figure, tall as the trees, moving through the brush like it was nothing. It was walking over this massive pile of dead branches we'd cleared from the yard, and that's where the noise was coming from. Every step sounded like the forest itself was cracking. It didn't move like a person. Its limbs were too long, its joints too wrong. It moved almost mechanically, like a puppet on invisible strings. At first, it didn't even seem to notice us. It was just passing through. But then it stopped and turned right toward us. We didn't say a word. My brother hurled the bowl of dog food into the air and we ran. Full sprint, legs like jelly, hearts pounding. We didn't even look back. We didn't have to. We felt it behind us, watching. When we got inside, we slammed the door and locked it. And for once, our parents believed every word. No brushing it off. No, it was just a shadow speech. Fast forward years later. I'm an adult now, having a casual conversation with a coworker about the paranormal. She says, "Hey, have you ever heard of Native American stick people?" And I swear, every hair on my body stood up. She goes on to tell me about these massive stick-like entities that roam the forests. According to Native American legend, they're believed to be harbingers of dark energy, totems of evil spirits, and if one notices you, if it follows you, it can possess you, twist you, drive you to harm. I had never heard of them before that day, but as soon as she said it, I knew that's what we saw. And, considering the land we lived on, land rich in native history and tragedy, I have no doubt that whatever that thing was, it wasn't supposed to be seen. But we saw it anyway. This happened to me about 6 years ago, and even now I can't shake the feeling it left behind. For a little context, I'm a married mom of three in my 40s, and I've lived in northern Germany for almost 20 years. I'm American, but I speak fluent German and know the area I live in like the back of my hand. It's a small, quiet village tucked into a rural part of the countryside. Back then, I had a female Labrador retriever, an incredibly loyal dog, attentive, calm, and always by my side. Almost every day, I'd load her into the car and drive about a mile outside the village to let her run freely. It was a place we both loved, wide open, peaceful. A dirt road led into a marshy, flat landscape with sparse brush and a few scattered trees, the kind of place where you can see for hundreds of yards in every direction. No hiding spots, no surprises. Usually it was just us. Sometimes a jogger or a distant farmer on a tractor, but mostly it was quiet, safe. Now, I've always been pretty alert to my surroundings. Maybe that's just the American in me. I carried pepper spray not because I was scared, but because I like to be prepared. Between that and the big dog, I never felt vulnerable. But two things happened in that exact spot. Two moments I can't explain. The first was simple, but strange. It was a calm day, no wind at all. I was standing near my car, smoking a cigarette, while my dog wandered nearby. And then I saw it. A small, dry brown leaf, just hovering, not drifting, not falling, suspended. It hung in midair, maybe a foot from my face, floating at eye level. Not on a breeze, not attached to a web or caught in a branch, just hovering, moving slightly in place, about an inch in each direction, like it was tethered to nothing. My dog noticed it too. She stood there, staring up at it, alert but not alarmed. I just watched it, mesmerized. It was like watching a magic trick in real life. Eventually, I reached out and plucked it out of the air with my fingers. It felt like a leaf, nothing special. I showed it to my dog, and then we just packed up and went home. It wasn't scary, exactly, just off. The kind of moment you carry with you long after it's over. The second experience, though, that one stayed with me in a different way. Same place, Same setup, broad daylight. I was standing out there, alone with my dog, when I heard a voice. It said, "Julie, I can see you." Crystal clear, from a specific direction. It sounded distant, but not far, like someone shouting from 100, maybe 200 yards away, close enough to be heard clearly, but far enough to feel separated. I froze. The voice was male, calm, and perfectly spoken in native, accentless American English, like a TV news anchor, like me. Now, remember, I'm in the middle of nowhere, in Germany. There were no houses, no trails, no places to hide. The terrain is open, flat, you could see everything, and there was no one there. Not even my dog reacted. She didn't bark, didn't flinch. It was like she didn't hear it at all. But I did, and I know exactly what I heard. It wasn't just the words. It wasn't even that the voice knew my name. It was the way the voice fit so horribly into that landscape, like it didn't belong there, like it was meant only for me. I didn't panic, I didn't run, but I packed up and we went home. I'm not someone who jumps to conclusions. I'm not on medication, I wasn't sleep deprived, and I don't have any history of hallucinations or audio disturbances. I've thought of every rational explanation, but none of them fit. And the fact that these moments didn't feel threatening, just otherworldly, almost makes them stranger. I'm a spiritual person. I'm open minded. And while these things didn't shake my beliefs, they did something else. They stuck, like threads I still haven't untangled. To this day, I don't know what I experienced out there, but I know it wasn't nothing. Back in 2018, I was working as a trail guide in the Santa Monica Mountains of Southern California, just north of Malibu, right near the northern entry point of the stunt road trails. Every day I'd saddle up and take people out on horseback, weaving through fire roads and dusty paths into the state park. Topanga Canyon is beautiful, but there's a strange energy to it. Quiet, isolated, and just a little off. It's the kind of place where cult rumors still float around in the breeze. The roads are winding and treacherous, Old Topanga Canyon Road especially. Nothing but blind hairpin turns cut into steep cliffs and rock faces. No sidewalks, no streetlights, no guardrails. One night around 10 p.m., I was closing up the barn alone after our final sunset ride. I was tired, bone tired, dirty, sunburned, covered in horse sweat and dust. All I wanted was to get home, eat something that wasn't a granola bar, soak my feet, and pass out. So I hopped in my car and headed down the mountain, carefully navigating the darkness. I didn't even have music on, just listening to my tires hum against the road and watching every curve with a sharp eye. It was pitch black, no moon, no traffic, just me and the road. And then I saw it. Around a tight corner, my headlights landed on something lying in a dirt pull-off, just feet from the road, right at the base of a massive rock face. At first, I couldn't make sense of it. I was exhausted, running on fumes, my eyes gritty from a long day. But this thing, it wasn't moving. It was dark, roughly the size of a person. I slowed down, pulled halfway off the road, tires crunching over gravel. The shape didn't budge. That's when I realized it looked like a human body, wrapped in a comforter. I rolled down the window. Hello? No response. I turned off the engine to listen better. Still nothing. Just dead silence in the canyon. I opened my car door, stepped out slowly. Hello? Still no answer. No stirring. Just the shape. Still, heavy, ominous. Then I saw them. Two black tennis shoes sticking out from the bottom of the blanket, completely still. And in that moment, my stomach dropped. All the concern drained out of me and was replaced by cold, creeping dread. There was no question in my mind. I'd just found a body. I stood there, heart pounding, asking myself if I was really ready to walk up and confirm it. Could I handle seeing something like that? Could I handle what came next? Calling the police, giving a statement, maybe being stuck out there for hours in this exhausted, filthy state? I didn't move any closer. I didn't need to. I knew what I was looking at. I climbed back into my car, locked the doors twice, and called 911. As I waited for the call to connect, my brain was racing. There was no gear, no tent, no bags, just a body wrapped in a comforter on the edge of a dangerous mountain road. Someone could have pulled over, dumped them, and disappeared. I had it all worked out in my head. It made sense. And just as I was about to tell the dispatcher what I'd found, something moved. In the blinding beam of my headlights, a hand emerged from the blanket. The figure slowly sat up, blinked at me, silent, dazed, not dead, not dumped, alive. It was a transient, someone who had decided, for reasons I'll never understand, to sleep wrapped in a black comforter 2 feet from the shoulder line of one of the most dangerous canyon roads in California. I stepped 1 foot out of the car and shouted, "Are you okay?" They didn't answer, just blinked again and started to move. That was enough for me. I dove back in, locked the door, hung up on 911, and peeled out of there like my life depended on it. It wasn't a ghost, it wasn't a cryptid, but it was one of the scariest things I've ever encountered. Because for those long, silent moments in the canyon, I knew I had stumbled onto a murder scene, and I knew it was going to change everything. But instead, it was just LA doing what LA does best, making the line between tragedy and absurdity razor thin. In 2015, I was doing an AmeriCorps term focused on meadow restoration in the Sierra Nevada. From May through early September, I lived mostly off-grid, 10 days at a time in the backcountry, followed by 4 days off in Tahoe. Toward the end of the season, my crew was assigned to a chain of meadows: Dutch Meadow, Strawberry Meadow, and Horseshoe Meadow. We'd return to the same area for my final 3 projects. And it was there, during those last few rotations, that things got strange. Normally, when a project starts, a Boris service partner hikes out with us, camps the first night, and shows the crew leader the worksite the next morning. But this time, the guy looked like he couldn't get out fast enough. He rushed through his instructions, showed our crew leader the site, and peaced out. No overnight, just gone. At the time, I chalked it up to him being busy, but it stuck with me. That first night, our water filter broke, which, if you've ever had to boil stream water from a cow-grazed meadow, you'll know that's not ideal. It tasted like earth and livestock. We got a brand new filter brought in the next trip, and guess what? That one broke immediately, too. Then, the tools started getting moved. And not just any tools. These were rock bars, 40 pounds minimum, big, heavy, expensive, and not the kind of thing that just gets shifted around by accident. But we'd wake up to find them in different places around camp. My crew leader thought we were being careless and kept telling us to put them back in their designated spot, but none of us had touched them. Still, it wasn't enough to freak me out. That came later. It started with the noises. If you've spent any time in the back country, you know the night is rarely silent. You'll hear coyotes, cows, trees groaning, wind, falling branches. It all becomes background noise. But one night, I heard something I couldn't explain. A strange, metallic banging. My first thought was that a bear was trying to get into our metal bear bins, those big ones with locking screws on top. So I stuck my head out of the tent and yelled to my crew leader. He ran down to the kitchen area. Nothing. No bear, no damage, just silence. But the woman in the tent closest to the kitchen said she'd heard the banging too, and she confirmed the bear bins were untouched. Still, it wasn't until a few nights later that something happened I still struggle to believe. It was dusk. After dinner, we were all heading to our tents like usual. We weren't far from each other, but spaced enough for a little privacy. My crew leader and I usually walked back together, and we were doing just that, on a trail we knew well by that point. There was this massive downed tree across the path, big enough that you had to sit and swing your legs over it. It wasn't something you just stepped across. He let me go first. I climbed over, stepped down, and looked up. That's when I saw her. A woman, crouched, low to the ground, like someone praying in a church pew, dropped head to toe in a white sheet. Still, silent, facing away from us, but I could see her side profile. I froze, completely paralyzed. My crew leader climbed over the big log behind me, confused at first, until he saw what I was staring at. Then he froze too. Seconds passed like hours. It was darker now, fully dusk, and I whispered, "What do you see right now?" Without hesitation, he described exactly what I was seeing. That's when he turned on his headlamp, and we saw her clearly. It wasn't our eyes playing tricks in the low light. It wasn't a shadow. There was a woman, a solid, physical figure, crouched just a few yards from us in the dark, wearing what looked like a white shroud. We stood there in stunned silence until I whispered, "Turn it off, I'm scared." He did. He turned it back on almost immediately, and she was gone. We didn't say a word. We just went straight to our tents, and I asked if I could sleep in his that night. We didn't talk about it. The next morning, we acted like it hadn't happened. I needed to believe it didn't happen. I didn't want to deal with whatever that was, and thankfully, that was our final project at that site. But as we packed up to leave, something else happened. I had my feet out of my tent, stuffing my gear, when something growled at me from just out of view, behind the left side of my tent. I screamed, thinking maybe one of the rancher's cattle dogs had wandered over. But my crew leader came running and he said he saw nothing. Later, back in civilization, I flipped through my field journal. When you're off grid for days at a time, you write down all the things you want to look up later. I had written a note to research the Native American history of that area. We'd seen petroglyphs, and I was working on a master's in American Studies. It was right up my alley. That's when I stumbled across a forum post about a place I'd never heard of by name before. The haunted Lewis Stringer campsite. a place where other hikers had seen the same woman, where they'd heard the same metallic banging, where even Forest Service staff refused to camp. I sat there reading in silence, horrified, because up until that moment, I had convinced myself that what we saw was some shared hallucination, some overactive imagination sparked by a long summer in the woods. But it wasn't. Other people had seen her too, and I was standing in the exact same meadow. I've had so many amazing memories from that summer, some of the best of my life, honestly. I got to work with incredible people and build something lasting out in the wild. But I won't go back. I can't. And if you find yourself in the Dutch Meadow chain, I wouldn't recommend staying the night. This happened a few years ago in Detroit, Michigan, and to this day I still hesitate to talk about it because the more I do, the more real it becomes. But I think it's time to set this story free. Back then, I had just graduated from undergrad. Financially, things were tight, and I was staying with my brother while applying to graduate programs. Eventually, I got accepted into an MBA program and began looking for a place of my own. The semester was approaching fast, and I needed something affordable and close to the city. After days of searching, I found what felt like the perfect place. It was a modest apartment, nestled in a charming complex surrounded by lush greenery and towering oaks. It had an in-ground swimming pool, a shared laundry room, a quiet little lobby, and a flower garden outside that made it feel very peaceful, almost enchanted. After everything I'd been through, I told myself I deserved this. But that peace didn't last. From the very first night I moved in, I felt it. That heaviness. At first, I brushed it off. I was tired, stressed, probably just adjusting. Then came the nightmares. 3 nights in a row, I dreamt I was trapped in the same dimly lit hallway, flickering lights above me, the air thick with dread. Each night, I heard someone crying. The first night, it was a man. The next, a woman. And on the third night, children. Their sobs echoed all around me, and every time I woke up, it felt like I'd brought a piece of the dream back with me. By the fourth night, I could feel it. Something watching me. It didn't matter where I was. In the shower, cooking, studying. That feeling never left. I'd spin around expecting to see someone, knowing I was alone, but also knowing I wasn't. Unlike a lot of people, I didn't immediately dismiss what was happening. I have a background in science, quantum physics, thermodynamics, spirituality, and I understand one thing clearly. Energy doesn't die. At our core, we're made of vibrating energy. When we pass, that energy changes form. Some call it a soul, others call it consciousness. And in rare circumstances, that energy lingers. I believe what haunted that apartment wasn't just the spirit of the dead. It was something far more complex, something angry, something powerful, something aware. And eventually, it made itself known. The first solid confirmation came from my cat. One night while I was sitting in the living room, he began staring at a corner of the room, completely still, eyes locked. He meowed softly at first, then louder, then stopped altogether, his stare unbroken. When I followed his gaze, there was nothing there, but I could feel it. Something was. His behavior changed rapidly after that. He'd hide in closets, hiss at empty rooms, cry at night. I tried not to let it affect me, but I knew I wasn't imagining this. Then things escalated. Objects started disappearing only to reappear in strange places. Lights would flicker. Doors I knew I'd closed were suddenly wide open. One night, after a couple of glasses of wine, I decided to record music in my walk-in closet. Good soundproofing, less outside noise. I had my mic, my Scarlett interface, everything set up. My Wi-Fi was off, but somehow my recording picked up strange radio frequencies, unintelligible whispers and static voices I couldn't explain. Then I heard it, a loud slam from the kitchen. I ripped my headphones off and opened the closet door, and at that exact moment, an empty wine bottle dropped from midair onto my futon. I stared at it, completely stunned. I hadn't touched it. There was no way it had just fallen. Still shaken, I grabbed the bottle and walked to the kitchen and stopped cold. The wine cabinet was open. I'm obsessively neat. I never leave cabinets open, and the bottles inside, they had been rearranged. One knocked on its side, and two more facing each other like they were talking. I moved them to a lower cabinet just to be safe and to calm my racing heart. By now, my cat was unrecognizable. He'd went from playful and affectionate to terrified and twitchy. His eyes were constantly dilated, and he'd contort his body in ways that weren't natural. He started drooling, something I had never seen him do. I recorded one of his episodes. He twisted his spine unnaturally, sat rigidly upright with his back arched high like he was bracing against something invisible. I started to worry he was being possessed. The tension in the apartment grew unbearable. I'd leave during the day, but I couldn't sleep there anymore. The only peace came when we stayed at my parents' place. Every time we left the apartment, the strange behavior stopped. As soon as we came back, it returned. Then came the worst night. I woke up sweating, couldn't breathe. Something was pressing down on my chest. My cat was curled up against me, but he was digging his face into my side, trying to hide. And then I heard it. A voice. Right by my ear. Here, kitty, kitty. That was it. I grabbed my keys, my cat, my phone, and left. I didn't pack. I didn't think. I just drove straight to my parents' house at 3 a.m. And after that, I only returned during the day. I refused to sleep there ever again. I nicknamed that place Haunted Gardens. And honestly, that name doesn't even do it justice. I documented everything. Videos, pictures, journal entries. Even my brother, who's a total skeptic, started to believe after seeing the footage of my cat following something invisible through the apartment, stopping, freaking out, and doing it again. After we moved out, my cat returned to normal. The nightmares stopped, the heaviness lifted, and I finally felt free again. But that apartment changed me. And if you've ever felt like something was watching you, if you've ever questioned your senses, if you've ever known something wasn't right, you're not alone. And sometimes, leaving is the only thing that saves you. That's it for this episode of MsStoryMystery. If you've got a story of your own, something weird, unexplainable, or just plain eerie, I'd love to hear it. You can leave it in the comments or email me at itsmisstorymystery@gmail.com. And if you want more stories like these, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. It really does help the channel, and it helps keep the stories coming. Until next time, take care of yourself and stay curious.